What's up, guys? It's Gigi here. Clearly in the cutest part of my gym, where you can see the the weights behind me and the power box. What's that called? You know, where you switch the whatever. It's not important. That's not my job. So I wanted to talk a little bit about incorporating Strongman into your routine. I really wish I would have known like what Strongman was and known about it when I started lifting, because I would have loved to have started incorporating this stuff a little bit sooner. I think it would have made my conditioning better. It would have made my lifts a little bit better, and it would have made it a little bit more interesting. If you are not competing in Strongman, that's okay. You don't have to be competing in Strongman to enjoy the fun of the exercises. You know, places like CrossFit stole exercises from Strongman, like the tire flip. That is like an infamous, you know, Strongman activity. They do tire flips. The yoke carry, you know, the big thing you carry on your back, looks like a squat rack you're basically carrying on your back, and it's about the same weight, if not 200 to 500 pounds more. Sled drags, all that kind of stuff. You see a lot of those stuff in commercial gyms now. They have sandbags, or a sand-filled medicine ball, you know, that kind of, I see that a lot in commercial gyms. Sleds are in there a lot, different kinds of sleds, push and pull sleds, even axle bars. You see trap bars, you see Viking press handles, that kind of stuff in gyms, maybe even a circus dumbbell if you're lucky, logs, what else? Even landmines, you know, the landmine can be turned into a version of the Viking press. So I think that it's really smart to incorporate Strongman into your training, because I know this is like a curse word in fitness, but it really is functional. It's carrying something like whenever you have to throw a big bag, you know, a big bag of dog food over your shoulder, that's something that is in Strongman. Sandbag over shoulder, or Atlas stone over shoulder, Atlas stone to shoulder, I should say. As well as the log press. It's a big cumbersome object. It's not a perfect even barbell that have collars that rotate, right? So the log and an axle are just basically like a pipe, and the log is just a fat pipe. So you literally have to clean it up, a continental clean, one hand over, one hand under, get it up, and then turn your wrist. So you're literally throwing it up and then driving your elbows in front, and it's way far in front of you. So it requires a lot of upper back strength. I think that my back has really gained a ton of strength in Strongman that I wouldn't have found otherwise, unless I did like a back hypertrophy program or a back focus program, really. So I think that it's super fun. The Atlas stones are really fun, really interesting, and it's something that is big and awkward. If you can pick up a 200-pound Atlas stone, you can pick up a 200-pound pretty much anything. And they have natural stones, they have all kind of different events, and I'm sure you've seen some of the events, the Hercules hold, you know, where you're standing out there holding two things, like two pillars, and at lots of competitions they'll have cars, so one car is on a decline, one's on an incline, and the one's dropping down, and then the other one's in park, and you have to hold them up. So I think that's super interesting, but I want to talk about ways to incorporate Strongman into your routine. So I think that it would work really well if you're a power lifter, really well if you're just into general fitness. So maybe you separate your conditioning days from your strength days, which is great. I really do think that you could add some at the end of your workout. So let's say, you know, it's your squat day. So you have squats for a 3x5 or a 4x6 or whatever it is that you're doing. And then you have your assistance work that follow it. So I think that would be really great on a squat day if you want to incorporate some Strongman work that could really increase your upper back strength. And if you have a stronger upper back, you can hold more on your back for the squat. So I think you could have your squats be your main lift, and then in your assistance work, that's when you can incorporate the Strongman, or at the very end. So let's say you're doing your squats for a 5x5, just to make it really simple, like your starting strength, 5x5 on your squat. Then your assistance work includes, you know, a good morning, and a front squat, maybe that. So what you could do is you could front squat any odd object. So I kind of like doing EMOMs or AMRAPs for my assistants to make it go quicker. And you know, let's say you have 10 minutes, as many rounds as possible to do 10 good mornings, and then 10 front squats with an Atlas stone glued to your chest, or a sandbag glued to your chest, or maybe you have a safety squat bar that you know have flipped upside down. That kind of stuff would be a great way to incorporate the strength that's required for a Strongman. If your gym doesn't have Atlas stones or sandbags, they're actually pretty cheap to make an Atlas stone, and it's also really cheap to buy sandbags. And I wanted to offer a tip, something that I'm kind of realizing now that I have purchased probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 3 out there, 9. I think I have 10 sandbags now. And I actually purchased from Rogue the crumb rubber, and the crumb rubber really packs it in there. So let's say you have a 100-pound sandbag. If you put 80 pounds of sand in there, and then you fill in the rest with crumb rubber, even 90 pounds of sand, the crumb rubber is bigger. So obviously it doesn't get as heavy. A 100-pound sandbag can only fit 40 pounds of crumb rubber, but it really packs it in there and it doesn't move and slosh as much. So it mimics an Atlas stone a lot more because an Atlas stone doesn't move because it's a concrete ball. So I think that if you are looking for sandbags to replace an Atlas stone or simulate an Atlas stone, your best bet would be to fill it up with sand and crumb rubber to make it as heavy and as dense as possible, and so nothing is moving and sloshing around. Although that does add a nice challenge of instability if you have the sand moving around, just like a lot with a keg. So I think adding it to your assistance work would be awesome. You could use it as a front load for your front squat or have a strongman focus at the end. So let's say you've got your 5x5 squat, you have your 2 assistance exercises, your front squat and your good morning, or maybe you do belt squats, and then you have your strongman work. It could be Atlas stone load, so you're loading the Atlas stone on the bar, or a sandbag load, or a keg load, anything that's kind of big, awkward, and heavy. Go outside and find a big rock and load it up for 5 sets of 3, or 10 sets of 1, or how I like to do it really would be EMOM format. So every minute on the minute, I try to do 3 reps or 5 reps, depending on how heavy the object is. So I think that it's really good to incorporate that at the end as part of your conditioning, especially if your exercise of choice, there's truck pull, and then a sled pull, like up hills, arm over arm pull. You can simulate a lot of that kind of stuff. The truck pull where you're literally walking forward and the truck is tethered to you and you're just pulling yourself along, or a backwards sled drag. They have things, they used to have the car walk. So they like cut a hole through the bottom of the car and you would walk holding the car. That kind of stuff is really interesting. So I think sled work, if you can do sled work at the end for some conditioning, really great on squat day, really great on deadlift day. And if you don't separate your workouts into squat, deadlift, bench, overhead press, that's fine. I think it would work really well if you ran a full body routine, just because if you're running push-pull legs, then you don't really want to be doing like a rope pull or a rope, drag, because it's hard to categorize that. Like if you're walking with a sled behind you, I guess you're pushing forward, but it's a drag, so that's like a pulling motion, but it's very quad dominant, so like that doesn't really make sense for push-pull legs. And then upper lower doesn't really work for strongman because a lot of it is all together. Like a clean and press is upper and lower. So I would recommend that you would do this on a full body split. I think that 3 days is great. 4 days would be even better because you could even do, a lot of gyms will do a strongman Saturday. So they'll have like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, their strength days, and then strongman Saturday. So it's kind of like everyone's practicing their strongman work. Or you can have it be that you do some sort of strongman exercise, because there are so many within every single one of your workouts. So I would recommend probably 4 days would be great. 5 days might be a little too much for your CNS fatigue and just overall recovery. However, if you're doing more of your strongman as conditioning, then feel free to throw it in and plug and play in your day. So if you have Monday, Wednesday, Friday strength, so you're doing squats twice a week, bench twice a week, and some sort of overhead pressing, at least once a week, and then deadlift once a week. So maybe Monday is squat and deadlift, where you're doing a heavy deadlift and a lighter squat, and then you have your bench day with more strongman stuff, or overhead press on this day, more of a focus on the overhead press. If you are more interested in strongman, if you're more interested in powerlifting, more focus on the bench. And then the third day you would have something like your deadlift and squat again. If you are a beginner, I wouldn't do deadlift twice unless you're doing kind of speed work or really lightweight technique stuff for lighter reps. And that's like your heavier squat day. So you have one light squat day, one heavy squat day, heavy bench and a light bench, and then including overhead press. If powerlifting is your goal and you want to incorporate some strongman, if you're more interested in strongman or overall fitness, then you can switch them off. I like to do for a lot of my clients, and I'm doing it for my girlfriend right now. She has a squat, well, not squat because she tore ACL, so she has a sumo deadlift, and then bench, regular deadlift, bench. And then the next week, the benches are replaced with overhead press as the main 5x5 focus for her beginner strength program. So long-winded way of saying, if you want to incorporate strongman, I'd say incorporate it as part of your conditioning work, and that includes stuff like sled drag, sled pulls, arm over arm carry, backward sled drag. You could do card deadlift as a deadlift variation if you want to add variety into your routine. So maybe for a 4-week cycle, you do the card deadlift as your deadlift of choice, side loaded or front loaded. If you don't have a card deadlift, that's fine. You could do a hex bar or trap bar deadlift, because the weight's loaded on the side a lot like a card deadlift. Log press, axle press. I would recommend, and axles are cheap to buy as well, so you could always bring one into your gym yourself, or at your home gym. The axle I bought was like $130, so it wasn't that expensive. And I bought axle collars with it, which is like $30. You do need axle collars for logs and axles and any kind of specialty bar, multi-grip bar, same thing. And if you don't have access to a log, it is a neutral grip. So a neutral bar, most gyms have neutral bars. I'd recommend using that. And I think that you could really incorporate it as part of your assistance work too. I found that the log press really trains a lot of that stability, hi Sadie, issues that I have with my press. I have a lot of issues with shoulder stability in general, just from all the injuries I've had and dislocations. So the log press actually is really nice for that. And also the overall force and hip power and kind of thrust that it takes to get that up has really assisted me in my overall hip drive and kind of power for my deadlift. If you're into Olympic lifting, obviously you already know how to do a clean and press, and you just have to learn the technique a little bit differently because you're working with something that doesn't rotate on the collars. So I would always advise, incorporate Strongman for a cycle and see what you think. Add a lot of the perks of Strongman are that you really increase your grip. So if grip is a limiting factor for you in your deadlift, this will really help you. I would also say that if you really want to work on your grip in general, adding in things like a cannonball grip, the little cannonballs, I'll show you what they are right there, cannonballs, or globe pull-ups, or grandfather clock grips, or even throw a rope over your pull-up bar or towel. Those are great to increase your grip strength. Also, if you look at any strongman, they have enormous backs, huge back strength, huge leg strength. And all of them are very, most strongmen that I know that are very, very good and high level are very, very large. So if you're really into powerlifting, they can kind of carry over to both. The weakest thing in strongman is bench, because you don't ever see a bench in strongman events. So I would say that their deadlift is through the roof and their squat is usually through the roof. Most of the strong men that I know have an average deadlift of anywhere from 600 to 900 pounds, and their squat is very similar, anywhere from 500 to 900 pounds. In strongman. So I think that if you are interested in powerlifting, strongman is a really good way to go, because you also get to train a lot of weak points. Doing an SSB or a camber squat will really carry over to a strongman, because a lot of the weight is usually thrown in front of you. Heavy front squatting will make your squat stronger and your deadlift stronger. I also think variety is great in general to prevent boredom, and a lot of the times we get stuck in a rut of the same things, and this brings a novelty to the training to uncover weaknesses that you didn't know you had. For example, I really didn't know my triceps were as weak as they were until I started working with the log and the axle and the circus dumbbell, because I realized a lot of that limiting factor for me was my tricep strength and kind of why that was affecting my bench press. I didn't even know, because I always thought I just had a weak chest. My chest proved to not be the problem, and as I'm getting stronger with my tricep work and kind of focusing on it a little bit more, my bench press is going up, my overhead press is going up, and my overall stability is a little bit better because I have some more support, as well as lat engagement, because the deadlift, you really have to learn lat engagement. So I think some ideas that I would throw at you would be including them as a finisher. So maybe you're going to go every minute on the minute, a sandbag load. So 4 loads over a bar, over a yoke bar. You could set up your barbell inside of the rack and just load it over the bar, 3 of them. Have a friend pass it back to you, or you just run them back and forth between sides if you have room to do that, or up onto a platform. So if you have jerk blocks, up on top of the jerk blocks at about chest height. For men, it's usually about 50 to 52 inches, and for women, it's about 46 to 48 inches in height for loading for competition. I'd say that also training with odd objects really makes you start to use your full body and get things to work together that normally don't work together. So trying to load up Atlas stones, natural stones, even loading up the log, you have to learn to not clean with your biceps. You have to learn how to clean and use your hip drive and use everything as a unit. It's a lot about timing. And I think that really strengthens you overall, because most people's issue with a deadlift, or especially a deadlift, I think, and a squat, is what's moving first. If you're lifting your hips way up first, and then you have to kind of uncoil yourself to get up, because you start here, so you start to lift, you lift up here, and you start rising and your hips get so high, and then you have to kind of arch yourself around rather than being in, you've got the bar, you hinge forward, and then whenever you rise up as a unit. Do you know what I mean? A lot of that is about timing and where you're starting your movement from. Same thing with the squat. If everyone is standing up tall in their squat and they initiate through their hips and they drive their butt back and they have an upper back strength issue, and then they start coming down, you basically start to fold. right? Like an accordion. And if you actually work with driving your knees out and you're going down, you kind of have a little bit more upright posture. So things like a front squat, front loaded squats in general, front loading. There's a ton of front loading in Strongman. Super awesome to do. Great for assistance work in an EMOM format, an AMRAP format. Maybe you just have 3 exercises focus on your weakness. So, your weakness in your overhead press is your triceps. So in there you have maybe a pin press set at chin height. You have tricep push downs and dips. And you just go through that as many rounds as possible in 10 minutes or 4 rounds, 20 of everything. And kind of working through that and working around your zone. So if your strength work is really heavy that day, your assistance work is a little bit lighter for higher reps. If it's the other way around, where your strength work is lower, then you go for heavy in your assistance. And never be afraid to go heavy in your assistance. I love doing heavy assistance work. And then finally having an individual section for Strongman that's a little bit more conditioning based, because believe me, Strongman will make you sweat. So I think incorporating things like a sandbag shuttle run. So you've got a small, medium, large bag. You run with the small bag 50 feet, you sprint back, you grab the 100-pound bag, you sprint back, the 150-pound, whatever. So you have like 50, 100, 150, or if you're a little bit bigger, stronger, 100, 150, 200, 200, 250, 300, whatever you have. Or 3 odd objects that are really heavy. You've got a stone, you have a keg, and you have a sandbag, or sandbag, whatever. And in Strongman competitions, they'll have fire hydrants, kegs, sandbags, atlas stones. They'll have just random stuff. And I think that doing things like that not only builds up your conditioning and your work capacity, but you're also training a strength, because you are working on crush grip, you're working on front loading, and if you can run with something front loaded, odds are you can probably pick it up. So because you're already picking it up to load it. So I think that stuff like that super helpful. It makes training more interesting. And if you want to have your strength be separate from your Strongman, if you had like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday strength, Tuesday, Thursday you do light work, you do conditioning work, that's a great time to do shuttle runs with sandbag. Great time to do pick, load and extensions. So you're picking them up in the lat position 3 times and then loading them onto a bar 3 times or over a bar, and then extensions, standing up and standing tall with them for 3 reps, multiple sets. Alan Thrall talks about that in his video about how to incorporate Strongman into your powerlifting routine. And I think that if you really do enjoy doing conditioning by itself, throw in some of your Strongman stuff that you're interested in. Maybe you're learning how to use the log and you're just working on that technique, and you do 3 log cleans every minute on the minute for 10 minutes. Maybe you do a log clean and press away lightweight at the end of your overhead press day or bench day to build up some of that strength. I think that you really can't go wrong. I think it works better in a full body format. I really would prefer most people, if they want to incorporate Strongman, have it be within their workout, not on separate conditioning days. So like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, or maybe you do Monday, Tuesday break, Thursday, Friday break, Saturday, Sundays off, whatever it is. But I do prefer, 24 hours between my workouts at least to recover. And there's lots of fun ways to incorporate whatever you have at your gym to make it more Strongman-esque. Maybe you have a multi-grip bar that could work in the place of the log, for the grip, at least the neutral grip. Maybe there are logs, maybe you have sandbags, maybe you have space in your house. You have a big backyard. Buy a couple of cheap sandbags, load them up with some sand, maybe some crumb rubber to simulate the stone, and a sandbag throw bag. If you don't have a throw bag, use a kettlebell for explosive kettlebell swings. And a keg is usually illegal to acquire, but every Strongman gym has one. I have 2, because they're not owned by us. They're owned by the beer distributor or whatever, but sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I think working with odd objects is great. Makes you stronger, it makes you a little bit mentally tougher, trains in stability. You can't go wrong. Incorporate Strongman, put in your conditioning, put in your AMRAPs, put in your assistance, and see where it takes you. It could even bring your numbers up, to be honest. Working on those high pulls and stuff, that's building a lot of strength and muscle in areas that we tend to neglect if you're just focused on the 3 main, bench, squat, and deadlift. So that's all I got for you guys. See you next time.